Action Report. I am your host, Chris. I am glad to have you on today. I do have some things I want to tell you about for schedule in the future here, but I really wanted to just jump right in and get into our discussion of Rebellion in the Rim. So I do have with me Garrett, Ruben, and Nick. And we did finally finish up the campaign. You can watch the finale on YouTube now, split up into 8 videos, which was kind of surprising, but some of them are much shorter than others because some of those turns were kind of inconsequential. But before we get into talking about the action itself, I wanted to go ahead and the Rebels were the ones that had the initiative at that point, so Ruben, you were in charge of choosing what the final scenario was. Go ahead and let us know what it was and what your thought process was.
Yeah. So we chose to go with base evacuation. And the main reason we went for that one is A, it's super iconic because it's the Rebel Alliance getting their base, extracted back to Hoth after we've brought enough planets in the system into rebellion. So that seemed really cool. And the other objectives that were provided in the mission pack were basically a little too combative, a little too like heads up, like we're going to really fight. Whereas evacuation is more about we're going to engage in a limited fashion so we can like fly away. And once we get close enough to the enemy board edge, then all of our ships can go to hyperfist. And as long as we get enough ships out, we get enough points to win. So that was the basic thought process going in. Both of us had like 3 spy tokens, Nick, right, to use?
Yep.
So deployment,
Was
we
crazy.
just have so many flotillas. Like when you take 1 or 2 flotillas and 4 fleets, you go, okay, well, flotilla, squadron. So we were really putting the Empire on the back foot because not only did we have a large deployment advantage, the Empire had to deploy all their ships at distance 3 of the board edge because they're in like geosynchronous orbit coordinating the planet that we're trying to escape. Which, man, that was weird.
And
it really impacted the inertia of the game of Armada. On top of it being like what, almost 1,000, 1,100 points per side ish.
About 1,000, I think. Yeah, everybody was at 250.
Yeah, or close to 250. So honestly, the only reason it wasn't just grossly one-sided is that we played on that 3x9. Because if we were on a 6x3, there's just no space to do anything, and it'd just be a shooting match. And that's for all these like playing a really big game of X war game. That's always my concern: is there enough space where maneuver can actually matter? And thankfully for us, the 9x3 really worked for that. So we deployed a bunch of our squadrons kind of like slightly off center because the planet we chose to defend was our planetary station, which turned out to be clutch. We didn't really think that objective was strong, but we only had like 40 points of squadrons, and when you're 1,000 points of fleet, that's not a whole lot. And if we were going to play our planetary ion cannon, we would have had to deploy everything first, which is just going to be a disaster. Terrible plan, don't do it. So we deployed a bunch of our squadrons, and then we basically said, okay, well, our 3 torpedoes are in the middle. We're probably going to move them wherever we need to move them. We have a few of our small ships to our left, and all of our like big squadrons supporting high point value ships to our right. So we presented a fork. Are you going to go? Which flank are you going to commit to? And wherever you commit in a weird way, we're going to pick up 3 of our ships, which are going to be the torpedoes, and move them. So that's like where deployment ended, right? So Nick, how about you talk about how you approached that side of it and then deployment?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, deployment was definitely a puzzle. It was more different than any other game of Armada I've ever played. having to deploy the Imperial, like our picket line at distance 3 meant not just all of our ships were further up, but we had no
No depth.
we had no maneuver. We had no depth in our deployment zone. I'm used to deploying with like maybe a large ship up front with a flotilla horizontal right behind it, and you can't do that because they all have to be at distance 3. So it was really difficult for us to get all of our ships on the line because everything had to be deployed on this line. Everything had to line up there in a way that it was able to be in position where we wanted it to be. And it was just too hard to do. And especially knowing that you guys out deployed us, we knew you were going to out activate us. And we knew that we had 3 spine tokens, but we'd have to redeploy first.
Mm-hmm.
So you presented us with these 3 options, and I said, well, no matter what we do, they're going to react accordingly. If we deployed everything on the left side, you just pick stuff up, move to the right side, and do your evacuation. If we moved everything to if we picked one side, you move to the other side. So we had to go with the middle. So that's why we played out the deployments a little bit, and then when we picked it up, we redeployed all our flagships, all of our like medium and large ships, kind of in that middle line with the interdictor just kind of hanging off to the side. Which I don't know. I think maybe I could have used the interdictor more, but
I think so.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I knew. So interdictor is interesting because in specifically this game, the rebel players would get points from evacuating with their hyperspace jumps. The interdictor jams all hyperspace jumps at distance 5 of it. So it created this huge bubble that no ships could jump out of. So I wanted to use it as kind of like a failsafe where if the interdictor was covering, this third of the deployment zone, we only had to worry about defending the other 2/3.
Now, for the record, is that an official rule, or was that something that was part of the updates that we were running from Ion Radio and such?
That's official Rebellion in the Rim.
Okay.
It basically says anything with a super weapon or experimental retrofit icon jams hyperspace, which I think the interdictor is the only one, because I don't think it counted the super weapons from the Starhawk or Onager. I think it's that specific
it only has the experimental weapons icon on it.
Yep.
So after the Empire redirected all their stuff to the middle, where all my torpedoes already were, and our A-wing screen, I pretty much said, well, we're going to go, and we're going to send these torpedoes in the middle, and we're going to bust right through their center, shooting as hard as we can on the way out, and see what we can get out. Now, fortunately for us, we got some hot dice for once on these stupid torpedoes, and we were able to blast our way through.
Jason has the absolute worst luck in dice that I have ever encountered, and yet that day
it finally happened.
Yeah, it was like it all caught up with him.
Yeah, we had this brutal giant squad battle on a flank, bombing rounds on the side of the Victory, Vader going crazy on people, those huge shots from the torpedoes, and then us jumping through, cat and mouse on my left flank, which was a bunch of our small ships, and then Jeff he just didn't nap enough. How many times have I told so many people to just navigate?
Well, we should give context. So we put the Rebel 1 on the far right flank.
On the far right.
It's really important. The Rebel Providence, like the CIS one, navigates really poorly. And especially the Rebel 1, because it only speed 2. So if you don't queue up nav commands, it won't get anywhere fast if you need to turn. So basically, because it has 1 click at speed 2. And so as soon as you start turning, essentially, it's impossible for you to turn hard enough left or right to get anywhere in the middle of the board at speed 2. You'll slowly creep to the edge of the board. Not a big deal, because of the way the objective of our game was going to turn out. And we were only going to use Rebel 1 to activate squadrons, but we had so many flotillas, it ended up not being an issue. So basically, Rebel 1 was able to creep to the edge of the board and hyperspace out. But it was interesting because it's like we were conserving our capital ship, as a fleet to escape. But no, it was really good. I really liked how our plan basically came down to we had the arm station, which was essentially like having an extra, almost like a medium ship, honestly.
Yeah.
The way it hits and how much hole it has without shields. So if you like pretend that it has shields, it's kind of normal. And then it's at like speed 0 because it doesn't have defense tokens. And then basically we just traded our whole squadron wing to escape with all the ships, which points wise, that's a really good trade if you can destroy most of their fighter wing, and we took out a lot of their ships, like their Victory, Gazanti, yeah, and then 2 out of 3 of the MC30s slipped out of that, which was wild.
Yeah, that was frustrating.
Because if you
I
watch
really
this,
only expected one to get out.
yeah, because if you watch the stream, it's like they've got this ISD and the Victory and a Gazantes blocking this path of all 3 of our MC30s. And they're all 3 MC30s are able to double arc and shoot and move.
And Jason just erased that Victory. I mean,
Oh my
I
gosh.
have never seen.
Oh yeah.
I have never seen
Yeah.
him in particular roll that hot.
It was like 14 damage. It was like
It was-
maximum potential.
I think it was like 12 damage, but he got an accuracy on like his like 1 blue. So he
Yeah.
like said no brace token. Here's and he had XI7s, I think.
He had XI7s, and I think the biggest thing was before he took the shot, we got to take like 3 bombing runs at the side of the Victory, which is just enough to pull enough shields off to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was really expecting that Victory to get like one. Like that game would have been so different if the Victory had 1 shot.
Yeah.
Because it didn't get to shoot. Like you just killed it before. And so
Right.
That was,
it had decaps even. So
had decaps, XI7s, sensor teams. Like it was going to pop or not pop, but it was going to hit really hard on one of those assault MC30s, which would allow the whole reason we were flying that the way we flew the MC30 in the ISD was because I saw the Providence on the corner. I was like, okay, that Providence is out of the game. As long as we move in like this like slow tide direction and just try to kill these MC30s. It's hard though. The advanced projections in the MC30s is they're so slippery.
Yeah, that I very, very much underestimated, and I thought my XI7s were going to get me through, and then oh wait, no, we've got the advanced projectors, so we're just going to move it wherever. And
yeah,
I'm like,
because we had to plan our whole campaign around advanced projectors on those MC30s.
Yeah.
It's like the most important upgrade card.
Yeah. So in the end, we were able. We definitely got some help from the dice, and really our like overall strategy of forcing a decision helped us get enough ships out. Because the game is so much wider when you're on the 9 feet, like horizontally, the inertia of the game is much more impactful because even at speed 3, it's going to take you 2 turns to get somewhere meaningful if you're in the middle of the board to a flank. And when the game's 7 turns, because this one's 7 instead of a normal 6, with ships being able to go to speed 3, like all those flotillas, like if you come in really hard with an ISD, those flotillas are still going to be able to like get linearly away from you where they're not going to be taking a lot of your shots. Man, like getting to the board edge in those last 2 turns and all the ships are just jumping out and we've got this last stand of fighters holding the line. Oh man, like that was just magic. Just magic. Right?
Yeah,
I just
it was pretty
finished one of the X-Wing Rogue Squadron books, and an interdictor pops up in that, and like now I'm in this moment, and I have to deal with this interdictor, and there's ISDs, and like all the stuff's happening. Oh man, pure magic. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it.
Even though we lost, I do feel like it was an appropriate ending to the campaign.
Yeah, I also wanted to say I don't think anybody's brought it up though. There was this dust field in the middle of everything we were fighting over.
Yeah.
Like where the squadron battle was, and where Ruben's assault frigate was, and our arm station. And I think, Nick, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you moved it with your grab shift.
Right.
I think your goal was to like protect you from the arm station, maybe.
It was to make the arm station a non-factor.
Yeah, but instead it really helped us.
Yeah, because we
blocked.
couldn't shoot through it.
Right.
And I
it
flew
blocks shots.
poorly. I,
Yeah,
I won't deny. I flew poorly.
You got greedy, Chris.
I
You
did.
got greedy.
I
it's
did.
a classic Imperial mistake. We've all been there. you throw the big dice. You're like, I can kill anything with this gun.
I think it's really hard to fly well at that level of points because you have
It
to
is so much
consider
going on.
not each. So in a 400 point game, we have 3 to 4 elements that we're moving in unison to attempt to achieve a mission. Instead, now we're talking about like 20 elements, and we need to break those 20 elements down into 4 or 5 units that will go execute an objective together. And that's how I've been thinking about how like move all of our ships. And it's not just like, all right, this, Garrett's fleet goes over here, my fleet goes over here. It's like each of our components that mutually assist each other, like our CR90s and the Hammerhead together, all the torpedoes together as a squadron, right? So we get into that, like the approach to combat where we're talking like at the fleet action level, where it's not a torpedo and an assault frigate and 134 squadrons. It's this destroyer squadron going to accomplish this objective. This, our squadron ball and this support package that's 2 larges, well, large, medium, and 3 flotillas all working together in concert, and that's an element of the game that you give a mission and then attempt to execute with.
Well, it's also a little bit difficult keeping everybody involved in a game in that size focused because there's going to be a lot of time where, okay, I'm waiting for my turn to do my thing, and I've got to wait for everybody to do their thing before I can do it. So, oh wait, did I miss something while that was going on? Oh man, so that it's very easy to miss a key piece of information in something that size.
Yeah,
Like,
I was definitely I was definitely trying to get everybody on our team involved, but it was hard because like not everybody was like, Nick, for example, he had his 3 Architens, but he didn't really have a lot of squadrons. So we would have these huge squadron pushes where it's like, okay, we're gonna spend, we're pushing 6 squadrons with that ISD. Okay, so we're gonna spend 20 minutes resolving the ISD activation. It's like, well, Nick's going to stand there and watch. Like Nick was basically playing our delaying activations. So the first couple rounds, he was looking at it, being like, "What do you want me to do?" I'm like, "Well, we're just going to delay. So just move anywhere." And the problem with that, again, it goes back to the deployment thing, where like I would have loved to have put his Architens in a more weaving role, but instead, the way we were limited on how our deployment, he had to fly with the ISDs instead of behind them.
mm-hmm.
And so we had to delay with him, but then his Architens would move in ways that's like, oh, well, now you're getting in our lanes for the victory in the ISD because I want to fly them in together in formation, but the Architens is in the middle there. It was hard because everybody came in and I said, like, okay, it's your turn to activate your ship, activate it. But they're not watching like every die roll and like everything that's going on. So you're like, I need you to move it exactly here right now because this is what's going on. But then I'm taking away from like somebody else's involvement in the game. But how do you have 4 people involved in like a 1,000-point game, to the same like level of thinking, right?
And I'm really going to touch on my thoughts on that when we get into discussing the campaign overall.
It's super challenging. Because if you're not like really into it, and it's weird to say because we're all playing the same strategy game, but like you got to be really invested into each move and how it all fits together to stay focused. Because I was like, Ruben and I were really into it. Like each move. And
like way too into it.
Yeah, because it was exciting because I felt the you could if you follow every step, you can keep tension the entire time, but it's really hard not to lose it if you are stuck out. And that's why this is where the 4 versus 4 thing comes in as a problem because
I lost focus midway through, I think.
Right. And I think, not to toot our own horns, like we did a really good job of like keeping it moving. Like when it was time to roll dice, we were like, "Who's got dice in their hand? Roll the dice." Like no waffling at all. Because if you waffle for like 10 seconds on grabbing dice, like 7 rounds later, that's an extra hour and a half of gameplay.
Yeah.
So like, and I felt bad sometimes. I was like, all right, grab the dice. Oh, you don't have the dice? All right, I'm rolling dice.
No,
And
I
roll
won't
the dice.
deny that I did feel rushed on a couple of occasions, and I
Yeah.
wasn't upset about it. It did detract from the enjoyment to some degree, but I understood why it was going on, and it was just one of those things.
Right. Because
You
I
had
think
to keep the game moving.
yeah, because you stall, like everything just like shuts down.
Yeah.
Which sucks. And I think that's the biggest. If I was going to recommend people do stuff like this, it's almost like you need 2 pivotal battles, like simultaneously happening or something. Which I don't know if that's a better solution.
I just would not
that'd be a neat
recommend
thing.
having. I would not recommend having four teams.
In one battle, I think it's a lot.
I think the campaign is set up, to where each side has a maximum of 3 fleets, and there's a good reason for that.
There's definitely a good reason.
Yeah.
And like we got that game done, like we got there at 10 o'clock, and we were leaving the store at 5 o'clock, and that is efficiency.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's amazing.
But and as part of what reason you felt rushed, Chris, is because like all of the like non-decision making parts of the game, like the grabbing the dice, the moving the squad, like a lot of the simple things we were pushing. Like I was playing fast on everything I could because we knew the time involvement. So like everybody else is like you're grabbing everything quickly. You're going like, okay, so activate the squadron, move it. Activate the squadron, move it. Like you know where it's going. They're speed 5. You don't need to measure. Like like we get it.
Yeah.
So like all that stuff was like quick because like we're trying to play fast because like that's like that. I know this game's gonna take long, and we need to save every second we can.
Yeah.
The entire time. But it creates that tension.
Yeah.
Of like that pacing of like, oh, am I not moving fast? And you had the ISD, which meant every round you had like our most important activation. So you also had the pressure of like, when I say like, okay, Chris, it's your turn. Activate. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're doing this. Let's go. You also had like to think like, okay, everything I do here has to be important. Everything we do here is heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is like I'm sorry, Chris, you want to say something?
No. I was just thinking, you know what? This is probably the perfect point to just transition away from that pivotal battle. And by the way, I don't know if we made it clear or not, but the Rebels won that. And won it fairly comfortably, right?
Because of our victory tokens from each of our ships that hyperspaced away, we got a victory token per command value.
Yeah.
And I think I counted 11 at the end.
Okay.
Plus they saw free. So it was like 14.
Yeah, my goal was to try to get the MC30s and win the squad war. Because without the 3 MC30s, you guys had, I think, 13 total command. And so the idea was that, hey, if we can beat 130 points worth, then hey, we win. So we need to kill the squadrons. We need to kill the MC30s.
And we did win the squadron battle. That I was kind of surprised, but we did win that. But
you did,
yeah.
Dutch Vander and one Lancer went out at the very end, and Dutch managed to kill something at the very. I can't remember who he killed.
She shot something. I don't remember.
Was it one of the Mandos?
It was some. I think it was.
It might have been a generic TIE fighter.
I don't know what it was, but it was like really epic that he took out one last thing right before he died. But no, it was awesome. Actually, Chris, what my next point was, it's a good transition thought. I was like, Rebellion of the Rim is just like every strategy game I've ever played, where I think the first, I say like first couple hours, but I guess first couple of games are always the most interesting thing to me. And then as the campaign progresses, I'm not as invested in it. Obviously, this is against real humans, so it stays competitive. It's not like fighting somebody with like AI and you like steamroll the computer or something. But I was like, the pivotal battle is like the end of it all, but it's also I'm not having as much fun as I did at like game 2 fighting over a planet versus one opponent.
Sure.
Which I think is just a natural part of games in a campaign. But I'm already excited to do the
Well,
Clone Wars campaign,
I am too.
where I'm back to like 200 points of stuff.
for me, when we talk about a campaign, the thing that I really bring enjoyment out of in a campaign is, whether it's Rebellion in the Rim or I've played Blood Bowl campaigns before, things like that. It is actually seeing the growth of your unit, whatever it is that, if you've got a team or a squad or whatever, seeing them develop and grow over the course of the campaign is what really brings me to the table. So, that's part of the reason why I didn't think as highly of the final battle as everything else, because, well, you're not going to see any growth after this. This is where it all ends. The other issue that I had is just, again, having 4 people per side, I think was problematic. It did make the pivotal battles a bit too tedious. I mean, there was just a lot of coordinating, a lot of work involved in that, and it stretched out the time frame on each of the turns. I have played this with 3 people on per side, and while those battles were still long, they were not an ordeal, and that's kind of what this felt like. Just my opinion.
Yeah, because we
for
had
sure.
dozens of squadrons. Dozens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like 17 to 14, maybe. No, I think it was 20. It was 20 to 17. I think.
Yeah.
2017 on squadrons.
And like aces, generics. Like we had 4 flotillas. It's a lot of flotillas, guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was stupid.
Especially rebel flotillas, which are like all squadron pushers. So we were just like delaying on the Empire side.
Yeah.
But let's see what else. As far as the campaign structure, I really liked overall most of it. Big change I'd make is these commander abilities have got to get retooled, no doubt.
Sure.
Ambush gunner, terrible ability for the game.
Way too good, yeah.
Because it's got the same issue. It just takes away strategy, to where your ships can't get obstructed. And I all of us had it, almost. Everyone almost had an ambush gunner.
By the end, yeah. I mean, I think you guys were a little bit late adopting it on the Rebel side, but once you saw it in action, you were like, okay, everybody needs this.
Right, because it's game breaking, in my opinion, as far as like how everything functions. Like I can get around Master Navigator. I think that's a cool ability. But Ambush Gunner ruins how I'm playing the game strategically. Because all of a sudden obstacles don't matter, where ships go don't matter, because you can always be within like distance 2 of a ship on a 3x3 map.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Ambush Gunner I think is awful, and I think Nick's ISB Architect's Fleet had this. He didn't use it a ton, and I don't think it's super overpowered, but it's the concealment one, where you have the ability to throw away a defense token to cancel a die. I don't know. I don't know if it's okay or not.
Let me ask you one question here. Do you think Ambush Gunner could be fixed by removing the wording of being within certain distance of friendly ship and just having it within that distance of an obstacle?
I would say my fix for Ambush Gunner would be it would specifically only ignore obstruction for the ship within distance 1. So, i.e., if the ship shoots and it shoots through an obstacle and that obstacle is within distance 1 of that ship, it ignores it. If it's outside of distance 1 of that ship, it doesn't ignore it. So it's actually ambushing. Not saying, oh, well, I'm here and my arc isn't obstructed except for this rock that's in at long range from me. but I've got the debris field to my rear. Oh, I'm within 1, so I ignore that rock over there and shoot you. That's not ambushing.
I also don't
Sure.
think it should apply to squadrons. Kind of like Ramadi. Like, I think it should
Yeah.
only apply to ships because I don't know. It's just like once
I didn't think it applied to squads.
it does.
While it's
like
hacking.
universal. Which that really messes things up because half of good squadron play is utilizing obstacles for squadron placement. And on a 3x3 map, and a ship's got medium range to flak, you got to be able to hide your squadrons.
Yeah, you're shooting everything.
Especially in Rebellion of the Rim, where everyone's using generics.
Well,
You start running into problems where you combine LTTs and ambush gunner, and you can melt generics in one turn.
Well, that's exactly what Nick did with his Architects. He had the command cruisers, so they all had that one blue flak, and he had LTTs on all of them. And so that was part of his strategy, and I get what you're saying, but like, yeah, that was part of his strategy because he was working with the tools that he was given, right?
Exactly.
And ambush gunner being that good. I like Ruben's change where it's like it only ignores obstruction from that obstacle that you're at distance of. That's pretty cool because it makes sense. And that's probably how they originally designed it in their head, right?
Yeah. It's really weird. I don't know. I haven't talked to too many people who like play tested Rebellion of the Rim, but it'd be interesting to know like the thought process behind why it was. Well, okay, never mind. I know why. LTTs didn't exist, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's why. That's why it's the way it is. Because that card is so crazy. So.
And if you want to know more about that, check out last week's episode where we talked all about
Turbo.
2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Oh, he's a real podcast
where we talked about turbo lasers and why you should or shouldn't take certain.
Yeah. Let's see. I like that. As far as other abilities, some of them,
So I took Ready Defender from the very beginning of the game. I think I may have started with it, and it never came up. And maybe because we had 4 players on the team, more games were happening, which meant more presence was putting down, which meant more bases were getting put down. So maybe in the 3-on-3, it would have come up more, or at least once.
Maybe.
But
I mean, the other thing is that when you look at the map, there are 5 sectors essentially, and if you have 4 players, then 4 of the 5 are, and so it kind of negates some of the distance issues.
Can I? All right, spiel time, because I've thought about this campaign for a while. So, me as the commander of my team, and as a person who really loves like military history, so I approach the game not only playing it as just a player, but also commanding my team and like determining where we go to attack, who defends where, like doing that, the like more team captain aspects of the game. So I've thought about how this rule set has approached the idea of being able to put myself as a player in the position to roleplay, but like in a sense as a commander of a rebellion that is leading fleet actions in a campaign. So there's operational level decisions, strategic level decisions, and tactical level decisions. The operational stuff is like the supplies. So I consider the operational things what type of, if you're in or out of supply, if you're low morale, and the tokens, and what upgrades people have, and what bases you have, which give out upgrades. That's like operational level stuff. Strategic is cutting off sections of the map and where we specifically send people to attack or defend. And then tactical is me executing my game as one of the players and what, like picking objectives, doing all that stuff. The operational level of this game, in my opinion, did not work very well. We never had low supplies. A lot of the operational level tokens that are actually used operational level, like diplomats, don't matter, and they never mattered, and I couldn't get them to matter. So not super not super engaged with that part. The upgrade stuff, as printed, is wildly busted and so snowbally, I don't even want to think about it. What we did with one card per team worked really well, frankly. Like, we didn't have huge, like, our. I'm not going to say we didn't have huge snowballs because we did, and I don't know why. Like, I guess it was just matchups because it was almost always one-sided at the end of each week of the campaign. It felt like we had a lot of 3-1s. We had a 4-0. We didn't have a ton of 2-2s.
Well, I would
At least
disagree.
Two of them.
Overall, it was really balanced, like all the way to the end. I think, as far as like fleets and how things turned out,
Yeah,
I think that part worked really well. Now, where you're very correct is where the map is not engaging because it doesn't matter. We're just
Yeah.
picking a button, and you can go there if you want, or you can go there if you don't want to. There's no like, I'm in this part of space after last battle. How in the world am I supposed to get from Mustafar all the way to Dantooine to engage this other fleet there, right?
Mm-hmm.
In reality, the closest fleet to Dantooine should be the one that can get there. And there should be a system like, all right, it's 6 planets away. Well, I only have 1 supply token, and it takes 2 supply tokens to get there. So when I get there, I'll have low supplies to engage them. Stuff like that, which is exactly what you're talking about. And that would like, all of a sudden, because I made like a map and was like really excited to use the map. But like after like week 2, I was like, this map doesn't matter.
Yeah,
almost.
It's just it only matters at the tactical level, not really the operational level, because it only matters if you can get the right upgrades to the right people at the right time when they need them. So, like me as a commander, sending my people to attack and defend, I had to take that into account, and we really ran into trouble with it because we had 3 torpedoes, so we all needed the same stuff. I really liked, this is tangential to the operational, strategic, tactical level stuff. I really liked having the generic squadrons at the start and aces only coming out if you won at a green location with skilled spacers, but it caused serious power spikes within some of our fleets by happenstance, which was interesting to see happen. I absolutely should have taken squadrons with my fleet, and that's like a tactical level thing. But because I thought I would be able to do more flacking, turns out that Imperial stuff scales differently than mine, and the minute that you have ambush gunner and other stuff, it's me shooting 2 blue flak with LTTs isn't going to do as much as the points get. It was interesting to have it happen. That's just food for thought. I don't really think it's balanced or imbalanced. Overall, I found it a very compelling experience to be able, because for the first time, I had a grand strategy, and I had to like tell my people, hey, we're sending you here for this, and it actually matters what happens, and it will carry on to the next battle. Now, one thing I missed from the operational level stuff that I also think absolutely categorically does not work is scarring. It's absolutely irrelevant as a rule. It might as well not exist. And for me as a person, as a background, while we were going through this campaign, I was reading Ulysses S. Grant's autobiography. And reading him talk about how he approached warfare while being able to be in a position where I can, not the same thing, but that's why we play war games and that's why we play RTSs, is to be in similar situations to challenge ourselves with strategic problems like that. And to have all these game design hooks where you can ideas where you can hook on rules onto them, and the rules that's hooked onto them just don't work and aren't compelling it's just such a miss of ideas that could definitely work. Because if for me, I would say scarring equals you get points per base that you have that has the shipyard token or whatever on it, and that's how many points you can bring back. I think you should see it more personally.
For the record, and it's probably because we misunderstood it when we read the rules in the group that I played this with the first time, that is the way it was. Okay, so you had an amount of repair for the entire fleet, not for each section of the fleet, based on repair yards and bases. And so it led to some tough decisions at times, and it made a difference in the game. So that, we probably played it wrong, but it made that particular mechanic matter.
Mm-hmm. And I think that with some better rule support for how low morale, low fuel, and whatever the last one is, like whatever that last status card, I don't remember what it is. The low
Supplies, morale.
supplies. Yep. Like how those interact with scarring and something that hooks everything together at the map level for operational level play. Oh man, this stuff would be magical if it actually like worked.
Especially if you like combine the next level where it's like you have to spend resource tokens to build a shipyard, and then there's different levels of shipyards. Capital, frigate, starfighter, and
we're
like
looking
you
at a lot more. Yeah, you want Empire War.
Right. See, that's what I don't want. Like, that
would be the perfect structure, actually. I think.
I see games like this and campaigns like this as attrition. We're not like the macro scale of time that it takes to build a starfighter, like a snub fighter or a capital ship, is so large that that's what occurs like after the campaign's over and then the next campaign starts. So I really prefer games like this, especially in war games where we don't have the benefit of computer automation and time, to be like, okay, we're 4 commanders. These are our assets. We've been given this mission to accomplish. How do we husband our assets, apply them appropriately to the appropriate target, and then execute our mission and try to keep as much stuff alive as we can in the meantime? Like that more like operational level play than the grand strategy level play that we see in video games.
Maybe. I think the issue there is
losing
the idea of this is
absolutely.
Things build up, right? And this campaign would if we were doing all the stuff we did, this campaign would have took place over like a year or 2 years or 3 years. So you would get stuff. But I'm more talking about strategic planets with more than just upgrade cards. And
there's a reason to hold it.
Right. And then I think one huge thing that has to be on this campaign map, and I think the Curling Conflict one has this, but I just don't like that map, is hyperspace lanes and deep space hyperspace waypoint buoys. Because being able to just jump everywhere on this map it just kind of drove me nuts. I would like it if your fleet was on a planet and you have to move it via rules of navigation in the Star Wars universe. You can't just go somewhere.
Yeah.
Unless you're a smuggler and have all these abilities, right? You can't just take the Rebel fleet and jump.
Yeah, but you can't take a smuggler's. Yeah, you're not taking an Imperial Star Destroyer with its accompanying support ships.
I think that would make this if we had to start on this map and we drew out little lines about what can go where, and then everyone's fleet had to start at these bases we picked out. All of a sudden, I think just that layer itself would add a ton.
Yeah.
To the strategy.
Well, I mean,
and satisfy my brain.
Even if you didn't have the hyperspace lanes, if you just set it up to where you have to track where a fleet is moving, if you're going from one section of the map to the next, just crossing one line, it costs a supply token. Okay, however you wanted to set up those supply tokens, but it's not dependent upon the number of bases that you have or where the bases are. It's just a matter of this ship takes this much supplies to go from point A to point B. Then you've got some resource management, and the locations then begin to matter. So, you wouldn't be able to jump from, say, Tatooine all the way to Endor.
Right. I think there's a crazy amount of potential to make a really engaging campaign here.
Yeah.
The
And I'm surprised
pitfall
it hasn't been like created yet, but maybe some
I
fans
think
got it somewhere.
maybe. I think the big pitfall with gamers and stuff like this in general is going too deep, too complex, too long. Because it is an absolute testament to the consistency of our group that we were able to do this. And thanks to every one of them that is not on this podcast. They showed up every week. They played all their games. They didn't go, "Oh, I don't feel like doing it this week. Sorry." Didn't happen. We're all adults, so scheduling stuff happens. Absolutely acceptable. It's how it works. But we got this stuff done with 8 people. I've
And we
heard
did
so many stories about this game just going, "Oh yeah, we got to the first pivotal. We couldn't get it scheduled, so it was over."
no, we did 2 pivotals,
Yeah.
both like 10
Yeah.
hours long with all 8 people, which is freaking wild.
And we streamed all of it. We've done post games of all of it. We've talked all our heads off of all of it. This stuff is so cool.
Yeah, this has to be the most well documented like 8-person full campaign on the internet, because Iron Radio did one, but it's just Ken and John, just 2 people, but we did 8 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't
and
messed up the video on that first pivotal battle.
First pivotal.
But yeah, you learn things from doing.
You don't
Yeah,
learn when it breaks.
it's crazy. This was our first run, and how well it went.
Mhm.
But man, yeah, I feel like we need to sit down and really type out our feedback to maybe Ken and John at Ion Radio to integrate into their thing, because I feel like I think they know the abilities for the commanders are wonky, because when they do their Clone Wars one, they do a random commander pool from the Clone Wars admirals,
Mhm.
which is interesting. It's also what if we played this game with no commander abilities? I thought about that too, and the only thing that matters is ship upgrades and squadrons.
I think
I don't-
in media, Star Wars tells its stories too much around those pivotal figures that are
Yeah, that's
on
true.
the ships. So when we use the literature that we look at to inform our game design, we need to keep that into account. So it should be there. I let's circle back to an idea here. So not only did we use all of Ion Radio stuff, we also did a bunch of stuff ourselves additionally. So the no aces at the start, that's us. We did more XP, which is also a change that we made. And was there one more that we did?
Yeah,
that
we
was
took the
different?
objective cards and have the value of the victory tokens.
Yeah.
Which I think was a really good idea.
I think that all those ones that have points on them, you just shouldn't play. Too many of them just don't work on a 3x3. They're really weird. And if you just have every one be unique, all you need is 3 of each color or 4 of each color. So sure, they can be random, generic, kind of not super interesting ones. Those green objectives, like I was telling Nick, are crazy. Wild to play. So difficult. You don't need contested outpost as one of your cards when you got, what, hired scum.
Yeah, I like those. I do like how crazy.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah, the
personally.
green ones
them.
were it was like tying a lead weight to a freaking first player's foot. Just
Well, I mean,
toss them off the bridge.
Another option, which actually would affect the choice of targets and everything, is just saying that the only objectives you're using are the objectives on the locations.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to the green thing.
Well, I
Let me
mean,
go back,
they're not all green. I mean, some of the
Right, no, I agree, but there is a lot of green.
and yeah, there is a lot of green in there, but just food for thought there.
I like that idea. I just there's a lot of locations that don't have any objectives listed.
No, all of them have an objective.
Are you sure?
Yeah, every one of them
Yeah.
has an objective.
I know some of them have
90%
reward.
sure. Now they're not all green objectives, because I know there were a couple of times that I used advanced gunnery from the location that I was at, but yeah.
But yeah, so but at that point, do you say like, oh well, then we won't make green objectives like consumable, right? Like one-time goes.
Yeah.
Or the idea of, and this would require, again, this is why video games do this better than pen and paper games, but like the green objectives pop up at certain locations on certain rounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that'd be kind of a cool thing where maybe you could shuffle a deck and then we roll for like, X, Y, like every sector has like 1 or 2 objectives pop up and go, okay, you can steal supplies at this location. You can hire scum at this location. You can have the HoloNet overdrive at this location. And that's this round in effect, this round only. And then it makes your decision making being like, okay, we need to go here to override the HoloNet. Like we have to go there right now.
That's a good idea, and not too hard to implement. You just need a planet deck for each region, and then just the deck of the greens. And you just go, okay, shuffle up, 1 goes face up, first green off the top of the deck, that one's there. I personally really like that the greens are 1 use and you know where they are. But like going back to me, like I'm very focused this campaign at the operational and strategic level, and operationally, those being limited and the only way you get your unique benefits and get more points in some cases, compelling gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to, we're getting close to time here, so I want to go ahead and give everybody a chance to throw out their final thoughts here on the campaign, and we'll go ahead and start with Garrett there.
I'll say this. If you have an Armada community, do a campaign. And if you have questions, ask us. I think we've got a pretty good foundation of how to do it. People love this. It's really, really fun for new players especially, because it's not overwhelming when you're playing the game on the table. And then you just have somebody who knows what they're doing control the map. This is a really engaging way to grow your community. And then bring, if they don't have stuff, bring your ships so they can play with them. That's all I'm going to say. Campaigns are a really good idea, and I wish there was more of them. And I really hope that maybe we can publish more engaging, next level map with systems we've been talking about.
All right, Ruben.
So this is going to be weird coming from me. Embrace the theme of this. Forget about playing the good stuff. Play these characters that you've watched on screen. The big screen, the small screen, that you've read in books, that you've grown up with, that when you played with their toys as a kid, it was magic, okay? Take those pieces. Embrace telling this emergent story. There's nothing as magical as being in a moment where you're the commander of your own Star Wars story. It's so fun.
Nick?
I wanted to say something about the theming and the commanders, but yeah. But Ruben's absolutely right. This was so much fun, and I would definitely do it again. Just if you play a lot of 400 competitive Armada, if the game ever starts getting a little stale or you're starting to get a little bored with it, this is a perfect refresher. Because going from like competition to playing a 200-point list with 1 upgrade per ship, it was such a refresher, and it makes the game completely different. And now that I've like kind of seen that, and I played like only a couple of games of like Sector Fleet, like at bigger points, I want to play this game in so many other ways now, because I want to see everything that you can do, all the different combinations you can make. Don't be afraid to house rule stuff. If your group all has an agreement on it, like we changed things on the fly because we all looked at it and said like, I don't think this is working out this way. We would change it we always knew that like, hey, if we have to, we'll just go back to how we had it before. A campaign like this, you keep track of everything, pen and paper, pencil paper. We did a lot of stuff on digital notes. You can always go back and change things out. You can always go back and look at your notes and do the math and do like an audit of like what happened and be like, okay, well, if we had done it this way, how would that have been different? And you can work it out that way. And something like this is never gonna be perfect, which is why I kind of understand why the Rebellion of Rim box, like, it has so many flaws, because there's gonna be, every campaign is gonna be unique. So.
And I'm going to close out with saying that, while it sounded like I was really, really down on the pivotal battles, don't misread that, because there are aspects of it, and a lot of the things I had issues with was just because of the number of players that we had. If we had played that with 3 players on each side, I think it would have been more manageable, and I think I wouldn't have gotten so lost in the technicalities and trivialities of the games. Overall, I love campaigns because I like seeing progress. And over the course of a campaign, you will see your fleet progress and your character progress. And sometimes it's not balanced, but those are things that you can look at and you can fix. Whereas overall, the feeling of actually expanding and progressing and making this your own is something that I think is fantastic, and you don't get in any other type of game. So with that, I am going to say good night to everybody. I will say we'll be back on in 2 weeks. And what topic do we want to talk about in 2 weeks?
Upgrade cards? What kind of upgrade cards?
Yeah, which upgrade card are you guys wanting?
Well, we did turbo lasers already, so why don't we do ion cannons?
Okay.
Oh, that's so boring.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe.
I'm sorry, Nick. I liked it.
I already know which one's the best one.
The one that's not an ion cannon.
Listen, man, I'm gonna have a dissertation on freaking ion cannon batteries now.
All right, look, I'm gonna fight for my baby SW7s, but I know what the real good card is.
Okay, ion cannons it is. Although there's only
like 6 or 7 of them.
There's only
not
nine.
But we can have a good conversation on
We
that.
get full range.
We can fill a full hour. Chris is always trying to tell us to shut up so we can turn off stream.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, thank you again for being on, and I will say good night to you guys.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.
So, again, it was a great experience. We really, really enjoyed running the campaign. Something that I do recommend to everybody to try out. If you're trying to grow your community, you've got a couple people who are really tent poles of the community that can help the newer players along. It is a great way to get people involved. Now, at the start of the show, I did say that I was going to go ahead and have some announcements about the upcoming schedule. The first thing that I want to say, and I've posted this on the Facebook page, you can catch it there. I usually have schedule updates there. This coming week, nothing is streaming. In fact, this popped up early on YouTube because it's a recording that we had to do because I am working late shift this week, so I was not going to be available to do the podcast, to do the Tuesday night X-Wing or Thursday night Armada. So none of that's going to be on this week. I apologize. We will be back to the normal schedule the following week. Unfortunately, that new schedule is going to change at the 1st of June. What is going on? I have had a lot of commitments on my time, and I felt stretched really, really thin, and something has had to go away. So based on the reception that I've received and the way things have been going with play groups and a lot of combination of things, but primarily my commitment to time and the quality of the product that was coming out, I am no longer going to be effective at the start of June streaming anything X-Wing. We will be no longer doing any kind of X-Wing podcast. You will not see Tuesday Night X-Wing. The final Tuesday Night X-Wing will be, I believe, on the 28th. And that's going to be an Aces High, where I have the core group that I've been streaming with coming in there to join me for a game of Aces High. So it should be a lot of fun. I hope you guys are going to look forward to that and give us a good send-off on that. The other thing, I have said that we are doing the Armada podcast. It is going to be a bi-weekly thing, just to make everybody else's schedules work out for them. Because of that, I'm trying to find some new graphics for the backdrop here. And I may have a contest coming up, so keep your eyes open for that. But I am going to be filling the alternating Mondays with something new. We will be doing a Star Wars Old Republic stream with a fellow streamer. We're going to be doing a simultaneous stream on opposing Mondays. And so I'm really looking forward to that, because it's a lot of fun getting into those games, seeing what kind of storylines you can do by doing unexpected choices in the dialogue. And I'm really hoping you guys will enjoy that. If not, let me know. You can talk to me on Facebook or join us on the Discord. I will be more than happy to respond to whatever criticisms, comments, whatever you've got. So, again, not going to be anything going on this week. We will see you again. It won't be this Monday, because we're taking a Monday off for the Armada podcast, and the Star Wars Old Republic stream will not be starting until July. So keep your eyes open for that, and really looking forward to giving you some new good content. I hope you have a great week. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sticking with us.